It's rather like driving a very old ride-on lawnmower.
It was extraordinary for the time.
Made my mouth water as soon as I saw one.
Driving this car, it gave a very good feeling.
I love it, I think it's absolutely smashing.
I said to my husband, we must have this car.
Panhard history is important because before Panhard it was prehistory of automobile, and Panhard created most features of modern cars. Panhard and Levasseur was two fellows of the same engineer college, and they decided to produce petrol engine, buying patent of the only petrol engine working in the world, produced by Daimler Company. In the same year, in 1891, they published specifications of their new car, took orders and delivered the first cars. By doing this, they began the automobile industry. The first car race was Paris-Bordeaux-Paris, 700 miles. It took 48 hours and 45 minutes, and Émile Levasseur won on a Panhard two-cylinder car. Panhard developed a new four-cylinder engine for the first race from a country to another, Paris, Amsterdam, Paris. His car won running at 44 kilometers per hour, exactly the double of the speed of the first race.
I have three Panhard Levasseurs. I have a twin-cylinder 1898, twin-cylinder 1902, but my favourite is the four-cylinder of 1898, the Paris-Amsterdam race car. It's believed to be the only surviving Panhard from that race. They entered, I believe, 12, of which half a dozen would have been works cars. And to my knowledge, there isn't another one left in the world. I wanted to do the London to Brighton. I thought, wouldn't it be nice to actually try and get somewhere seriously up front like first if it's possible. And so I was thinking, well, what do I do? Well, the requirement really for London to Brighton is the earlier the car, the earlier you're let off. The secret really, if that was your ambition, was to find a fairly fast motor car of a very early period. So with some help from some friends, we located this car in a museum in Holland, and because of its four-cylinder, larger horsepower capability, it had every chance of getting away ahead of the traffic, and I thought it was possible that just by a fluke of luck we might just achieve it, and we did. And it was a great day. I was famous for a day and enjoyed every minute of it. It's rather like driving, if you imagine a very old ride-on lawnmower. There's lots of levers and it's very mechanical. But it's, if you like that sort of thing, it's really quite absorbing, and it's fun. You have to drive looking 100 yards ahead with these. The brakes are appalling, and the steering isn't very good either. But it probably makes you a better driver in the end. I think it probably does. On the four-cylinder car on the dashboard there's greasers, and I think there's half a dozen of them, and they lubricate various parts of the chassis which have to move, and that is the gear linkages to the gearbox, etc. and you would just tweak those by, say, a quarter of a turn with a screwdriver whilst you're going along, just occasionally every 10 or 15 miles or so, just to make sure there's plenty of grease on those parts that need to move. I love it. I think it's absolutely smashing. To think how people lived and how they behaved 100 years ago, and what a motor car really meant. There really weren't very many of them around, and they were unbelievably expensive.
At the turn of the century, Panhard have lost one of the two founders, Émile Levasseur. He had an accident during the second race, Paris-Marseille-Paris, and he died 6 months after because of injuries. A new creative man, Arthur Krebs, a military engineer, joined Panhard Company and continued to create new features for a modern car. In 1934, they introduced a new styling in body with panoramic windscreen, two curved pieces of glass on both sides of the windscreen. It improved visibility and it gives its name to panoramic saloons. They continue to use this technology in the next pre-war model, the Dyna X.
I have this Dyna X because my aunt was the daughter of Hippolyte Panhard. And when she married, Hippolyte Panhard gives to her that car, not another one, that one. And a few or many years after, they sell the car because no place, because new one, I don't know. And 2 or 3 years ago, when I am going for a trip with my husband, we found the car of my aunt. And when I go in that car, I said to my husband, we have to buy this car because it's not a car like that, it's the car of my aunt. If you look in the car, you can see a little plaque where it's written the name of my aunt. The Dyna X was a car who was d'avant-garde. It was aerodynamic, it was a very particular lines. It was extraordinary for the time. I don't know why the driving was in the middle. Always Panhard do something avant-garde. So they try, sometimes it was good, very often it was very good. But for the driving in the middle, no, for 3 years I think only, and after it was on the left. I never drive the car because it's too difficult. It's my husband who drives the car. Very often we go not far from here to see my aunt and my uncle because it was their first car. That car is very important for my aunt because she goes with her husband at honeymoon with that car. And she is very, very happy when she sees that car. It's something extraordinary to think that 100 years before there was no cars. René Panhard does the first car to be sold, and now there are millions and millions of cars all around the world. When I am in the car, it's very good, very well. Like when I was a little girl, you are in the other world. It's extraordinary.
The Second World War changed everything in economical and social circumstances, and Panhard designers decided to develop new cars in a different direction for a new market. During the war, Panhard designers planned to develop small cars, very economical cars. This car, called Dyna X, was the right car for a new customer interested in fuel economy, good road holding and comfort. It had very brilliant little flat twin engine and a body made of light alloy. But it was too small for the modern customers, and Panhard decided to develop a larger car, keeping main features of the previous one. This model will be Dyna Z.
This car is a 1959, a model Z16. I have this car because in '83 I met a man who wanted to give this car only for Panhard lover. And I answer, I am the man for you. I have many in Panhard in a very beautiful condition, and yours is perfect for me. I promise this man, when I am too old for drive it, I will give this car to the museum. Driving this car is very different from other cars, because she has no pedal clutch, because she has automatic transmission. We lift the gear only with a hand. Another feature is a very good suspension, with a 4-wheel independent suspension. It gives a very good feeling. Other quality is good sensitive steering wheel. It gives a good cornering and good handling.
Dyna Z was a real event in car production because of its body. The first very aerodynamic mass production car, and very large car with room enough and very economical. Another aspect of Dyna Z was its safety, with good road holding, good brakes, with a lot of new devices, flashing lights and indicator lights, cushioned dashboard, and ejectable windscreen in case of the head of a person hit the windscreen. The first car in Europe combining active and passive safety.
I like Panhard because it's very different other car, other production, France and other countries. Panhard is the noisy is different, the look is different, design different, and it's a mechanical vehicle. It's not a rustic vehicle, it's sophisticated. I like this.
As well as Dyna X and Dyna Z, Panhard produced another car in the Dyna family, Dyna Junior. It was important because it's the first time car manufacturer was able to sell a sporty roadster or cabriolet cheaper than the saloon. Dyna cars were great cars, but very expensive to produce, and Panhard company had financial problems. In 1955, Citroën company was creeping to the door of Panhard company and was able to buy 25% of Panhard shares. Panhard went on developing new cars. They developed PL17. Actually, it was a very clever restyling of Dyna Z, but it looked more modern and brand new. At the same time, it developed an improvement of the famous little fat twin engine, Tiger engine. This very little engine was able to develop 50 horsepower. PL17, like Dyna Z, was the right car for family market. But in the beginning of the 60s, Panhard designers decided to create a new sporty car, the 24CT.
This car, the 24CT model, was almost the last model introduced by Panhard, but it used the same engine, gearbox, front suspension, even rear suspension, even lots of things, even the same fuel tank as previous Panhard models. So there were no bugs when it was first launched. Everything worked right from the start. When this model was first shown to the press in '63, I was already a fan of the make. I could almost say it made my mouth water as soon as I saw one. I remember the first one that I saw was displayed in the shop window. Not that they made any special effort, but just that it's a car that is so striking. Certainly was aimed at the young man about town who wanted to show off, to leave it parked on the curb as near as possible to the cafe where everybody meets everybody in town, to give a lift to pretty girls in it. It was the swinging 60s. It was only 2 years after Jaguar introduced the E-Type model. Of course, it could not compete with an E-Type in speed. But on the curb, it was good value for money after all. Not only has this car a lot of special features, some of them new, some of them continued from previous models, but the fabulous thing is that nearly all those gadgets worked. The 2,000 possible positions of the seats, I never realized that you could find 2,000 positions, but I always found that it was easy to adjust the seat, so I was comfortable in it. You have the oval steering wheel. That was ergonomic. It didn't interfere with your line of vision. The automatic lights in the doors and in the glove box, it worked. The special staggered windscreen wipers, they worked very well. For the driver, it could be a disappointment because there was no more power than in the previous model. But you could drive it relaxed for hundreds of miles without so much as backache. Every control fell under your hand at the best possible position, including the gear shift lever that was designed so you would involuntarily hit your passenger's knee. That was part of the ergonomical design of it. It was really a pleasure to drive, provided you didn't get vexed if people overtook you with a family saloon, which often happened. It's a model that you either reject or take to instantly, because it's so peculiar, so in a way different from run-of-the-mill cars. When it breaks down, you're disappointed, you are despaired, you think this is the end, I don't want it anymore. But as soon as you have reassembled it and it goes instantly, you are back in love with it. It's like a kind of mistress, you see, an unfaithful mistress, but you can't help forgiving her.
24 CT was a great car, but it didn't make enough money because it wasn't a mass production car and because it wasn't supported by Citroën. Panhard company still exists today, producing armored vehicle for the army, but car production is finished. At 4 p.m. on the 20th of July 1967, the last Panhard car left the factory. It's so sad because it was a marvelous technical and human adventure, and if Panhard hadn't introduced its inventions, modern car wouldn't be the same.
Why I like Panhard? It's a long story, a long love story.
We have to preserve them because it's splendid. It's a very, very good work.
They have a certain smile somehow. They have a personality. And, I open the door in the morning and I think I say good morning to them on several occasions. And if I've been to the pub, I probably say good night to them as well.